We are in effect. Let's do this. Absolutely. Live on a Friday. We are talking basketball. It is happening. It is going on a Friday night. We are in effect. And tonight we're talking about the top 10 players according to ESPN. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the top 10 players that ESPN has down, according to ESPN. And how do I feel about it? How do I feel about the top 10 players? Well, the first question that I asked, can you guys hear me? Am I hot? That's the $1 million question, because I think I'm hot. I think I am hot. Yeah, I think I'm hot. But with that being said, I'm good, Kahil. Yes, sir, I'm good. You guys can hear me, so that's good. So, like I was saying, I'm thinking about, thanks, Ari, I appreciate you, brother. I'm thinking about the top 10 players in the game according to ESPN. They got Giannis at 1, Joker at 2, Embiid at 3, Luka at 4, Steph at 5, Tatum at 6, SGA at 7. Nope, I skipped one. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Let me rewind the clock. They got Tatum at 6. They got SGA at 7. They have, I know they got James and AD 9 and 10. They got KD at 7. So they got Giannis at 1. Yeah, they got Giannis at 1. They got Joker at 2. They got Embiid at 3. They got Luka at 4. They got Curry at 5. They got Tatum at 6. They got KD at 7. They got SGA at 8. They got James at 9. And they got Anthony Davis at 10. And I don't, what up, D? I don't love it. I have a few discrepancies with the top 10 players in the NBA according to ESPN. Number one, I don't think SGA is a top 10 player in the NBA today. Not right now, I don't. I think he's working his way up to being a top 10 player in the NBA, but I don't think he's a top 10 player right now. And I think that you have to define what your criteria is for top 10 player. And for as long as I've been around, if you're a top 10 player in the game, you're doing work, but you are winning, right? You are a part of something where you are at minimum, you in the playoffs. You don't necessarily have to make deep playoff runs, but you are in the playoffs. That's part of being a top 10 player. So because of that, a guy like SGA, he's not over Donovan Mitchell. He's not over a guy in Donovan Mitchell who over the last 3 seasons, he was on the number 1 seed Utah Jazz. The number 1 seed Utah Jazz, they had the best record in the Western Conference. He led the Jazz in scoring, which to this day, I'm still having a difficult time with this. Donovan Mitchell led the Jazz in scoring. He was second on the team in assists, and he was third in rebounding, and did not make the All-NBA team. And did not make the All-NBA team. I don't know. I don't ever remember that happening in my lifetime, where the best player on the best team in the Western Conference, who was the number 1 seed, did not make the All-NBA team. Not make first team, not make second team, or third team. He didn't make the All-NBA team at all. I don't ever remember that happening in my lifetime, ever. So that's that's a bit of that's crazy to me. We're talking about a guy who then moves over to a Cleveland Cavaliers team that were a play-in team the year before he got on the crew. He was on a play-in team that the year before he got on the crew, and the year he gets on the crew, they're a top 5 seed in the East, which was a lot better that year. They're a top 5 seed. Donovan Mitchell, from what he has done, is a top 10 player in the game. Don't get me wrong, yo. It is hard to win in the NBA. It is hard to go deep into the playoffs in the NBA. And to be on a team where, you know, we got the best team in the Western Conference. And in the process of us having the best team, I elevate a team that's gone from being a play-in team to a top 5 seed, which I think Cleveland's going to be a top 3 seed this year. And I think that they advance out of the first round. That's called improving your situation. And that's largely due to him. And don't get me wrong, I felt like Cleveland was on their way to doing something anyway, but to add Donovan Mitchell, right, to add Donovan Mitchell to that, they were definitely now on their way. So I think Donovan Mitchell is a top 10 player. In the last 3 years, Devin Booker has been on a team that's been to the NBA Finals. He's been over 26 a game. His team's been deep into the playoffs. He shot a ridiculous percentage last year in the playoffs. He did miss, I think he missed like 25 games, and I can get with that logic. He missed a couple of games. But with that being said, he still is, at this particular time, arguably the best player in the league at his position. Now, if you're the best player in the league at your position, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a top 10 player, because there could be other positions where there's a lot better players, and you just so happen to be, you just so happen to be the best player in maybe the weakest in the weakest position. But that's not the case with the 2 guard, because there's a lot of players at the 2 guard spot that are damn good. Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, just to name a few guys. There's plenty of guys at the 2 guard position who are awesome. So I think Devin Booker is a top 10 player. Add all of those guys up with the fact that in the last 4 years, Jimmy Butler has been an all-NBA performer. The Miami Heat have been in the Eastern Conference Championship because they got a 20-10 guy in Bam, and they got an all-league defender and an all-NBA performer in Jimmy Butler, who's performed in the playoffs, whose game was elevated in the playoffs. I got a difficult time with Jimmy Butler not being a top 10 player, even if he is on the back end of the top 10. I got no problem with Jimmy Butler being a top 10 player. I got no problem with you having Jimmy Butler on the back end of the top 10. But Jimmy Butler has to be a top 10 player, considering what he has done. Considering what he has done. I think we got to stop rewarding these guys who are not over the hill. Over the hill is not, I'm not going to say over the hill, but on the other side of who they used to be. We got to start rewarding these guys who are on the other side of who they used to be, and giving these guys who are playing at the level that these guys are playing at, and they're younger and they're more available. We have to stop holding those guys back. And I say that to say, I think Jason Tatum is a top 5 player. I have him ahead of Luka. I don't have him ahead of Luka by leaps and bounds, but I do have him ahead of Luka. And the reason why I have him ahead of Luka is because from the beginning, when Luka showed up, Luka was more polished. So he wasn't far from his ceiling. I think Jason Tatum was raw. Not only was he raw, he was more athletic, and there was so much more to be desired. With that being said, he improved every year. every year he has improved. And because he has improved every year and having a career year last year, I feel like he's passed Luka. We're talking about a guy who was 39-5. He's been an integral part of this Boston Celtics team. He's been an integral part of this Boston Celtics team going deep into the playoffs. Deep into the playoffs. Luka has that Dallas Maverick team built around his skill set. Because I hear a lot of people saying to me stuff like, if you put Jason Tatum in a position that Luka is in, he wouldn't be able to do the same thing that Luka is doing. Well, first of all, that team was built around Luka. So if you put Jason Tatum in that position where the team is built around his skill set, I think we're having a different conversation. Because he is a franchise player. How do I know that? Because he got on a really good team and became the best player. He could have very well gotten on a good team. There's plenty of guys who've gotten on good teams and were just good players. Andrew Wiggins is a prime example of that. He was the #1 overall pick. He gets on this he gets on this Golden State Warriors team, and he's a damn good player. He is a fine player on that team. He's not the best player on that team. Jason Tatum gets on this Boston Celtic team, which is young, by the way. It's not like he got on a bomb squad right from the beginning. I mean, Marcus Smart wasn't established as that guy. He was becoming that. Al Horford was an all-star, playing at an all-star level. Jaylen Brown was raw as they come. And Jason Tatum came in the year after Jaylen Brown. So it wasn't like Jason Tatum showed up 3 years after they had him. He came in the year after him. And they get Robert Williams 2 years later. So Jason Tatum now becomes the better player of all of them. So he's now solidified as the franchise player. With him being solidified as the franchise player, they go deep into the playoffs. Off the strength of him, off the strength of their defense, off the strength of Jaylen Brown, off the strength of Marcus Smart. But it's obvious that Jason Tatum is the best player on that team. Luka, on the other hand, I feel like Luka's ceiling, he hasn't reached it yet. But I feel like it's lower than Jason Tatum. I feel like Jason Tatum's ceiling is still higher. And the reason why I feel like that is because Luka came in more polished, so there wasn't much more there. I don't think that what you saw last season, what was it, 31, 8, and 9? I don't think it gets much better than that. I don't. I do not think I don't think it gets better than that. And I see who he is defensively. I've seen that. And I've seen what he's done in the playoffs. I've seen that also. So with that being said, there's still room for him to grow, and that ceiling is still. I still don't feel like Luka has reached his ceiling. But when I hear people telling me that Luka is miles ahead of Jason Tatum, you guys that are telling me that are looking at Luka specifically from an offensive standpoint and a scorer's mentality, and you have blinders on to who Jason Tatum is, and you have not watched him improve his game. You have not. You are holding him you're holding his feet totally to the fire to him not winning an NBA championship. You got to do the same thing with Luka. When they got mocked by the Golden State Warriors in 5 games. Well, wait a minute. Jason Tatum's team was better. That crew that they built around him, they built that around Luka's skill set. They built that around Luka's skill set. And because they built that around Luka's skill set, that's where that team is going. That team in Boston, they built that team, and Jason Tatum turned into the guy. If you remember, Gordon Hayward doesn't get hurt. Jason Tatum doesn't get on the floor that early. That doesn't happen. He does not get on the floor if Gordon Hayward doesn't get hurt. But he did get hurt. And Tatum got on the floor. And I've seen the growth over the last 5 years. And he had a career year last year. So with that being said, I'm having a difficult time not putting him ahead of Luka. And that doesn't mean that he's miles ahead of Luka. I still feel like they like this. For you people that's telling me that him and Luka aren't close, I'm not listening to a word that you have to say to me. If you want to leave right now, you can go ahead. Because it's obvious that you are not watching Jason Tatum improve as a basketball player and improve that Boston Celtics team. I'm not trying to hear it. I am not trying to hear nothing that you're telling me. I'm not. So if you want to leave, you can leave right now because you obviously haven't watched him. I've watched Luka, and Luka is not, I'm not going to say not desirable because Luka has that kind of game where he's responsible for a lot of people's offense, but he looks like he's difficult to play with. He looks like he can be difficult to play with because he dominates the basketball. And I'm gonna be real interested to see how this goes between him and Kyrie Irving this season. I think this is gonna help him because he's running with a dude that he's not solely responsible for this guy's offense. He's not solely responsible for making plays for this guy. So I think that that's a good thing. I think that's a fantastic thing for him. So I'll be interested to see. I'll be interested to see how this dynamic works between him and Kyrie Irving. Plus, he's going to get an entire season, kind of like what James Harden did with Joel Embiid. So I think that's a good thing. Definitely think that's a good thing. So what do you mean? How often did Luka's teammates bail him out? Plenty of times on defense. How about the times when Reggie Bullock is taking the best perimeter player on offense? How about when Finney Smith is defending? All you're looking at, Max, is you're looking at Luka from a scoring standpoint. It's more to basketball than that. And again, you are obviously you've seen Jaylen Brown bail out Jason Tatum. You know what that means to me? That means that you are not watching Jason Tatum as a player. You're not. You're not. And I've seen Luka get bailed out by Bullock from a defensive standpoint. I've seen Finney Smith. I've seen him get bailed out. It's not like he's doing everything on both sides of the basketball because he's not. That's just not true, sir. That is not true. And for you to tell me that all you're looking at is Luka shooting fall-away threes, which are bad. He's not very efficient, by the way, at that particular time. So with that being said, I have Jason Tatum ahead of Luka. I don't have him miles ahead of Luka. I have these guys right here like this. Last season, the gap closed. I felt like 2 years ago the gap was closing. I felt like last season, with the improvements that Jason Tatum had made, I felt like he jumped Luka. I don't feel like he surpassed him like other players have. But with that being said, I do feel like he jumped him. Now, when you're talking about the best player in the league, I have a difficult time with listening to people talk to me about how you're better at basketball, right? You're better at basketball. If you're a better basketball player, that means that you're better. No, it doesn't mean that. No, it doesn't mean that. And Sampian, to say that Jason Tatum is good and not elite, you are quote unquote cap. That's a lie. For a guy to be first team All NBA 2 straight years, to lead all small forwards in rebounding, to improve every year, and to just say he's good, that's a lie, sir. I got a problem with that. And matter of fact, I'm not going to do that. With that being said, I'm just having a difficult time with what is the criteria for the best player in the game? That's what I'd like to know. What is the criteria for the best player in the game? I'm gonna drop the link in the chat, and I'd like to know from you guys. You tell me, because this is an interesting thing. I'm having a difficult time with Giannis being the best player on the planet, because I want to know what the criteria is for best player on the planet is. I do. I would love to know what is the criteria. What is the best player in the world? What does he have to do to get that tag, to be the best player on the planet. What is he doing? What is he doing? Adrian, tell me. I'm all ears, Adrian. Tell me what does the best player? Tell me, Adrian, what the best player does in order to be. What happens if he's the best player in the world? I'm listening.
Yo, can you hear me?
I can't hear this guy. I'm sorry. Hold on.
All right. Let's see.
Let me adjust my microphone.
All right.
All right, too hot. I got you.
Yo, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So just real quick, right? On the Tatum Luka thing, and then we'll get into that best player in the world situation, right? I hear you 100%, like, because I think if I was to pick a player out of Luka and Tatum that I would want to start my team with, I'd pick Tatum. For that very same reason you made, like, I think it's more difficult to build around Luka than it is Tatum. However, when I look at their skill set, I think there is a higher level for Luka to reach than Tatum, because I'm unsure as to whether Tatum will get better at the things he needs to, and whether that scheme that the Celtics run will allow him to do those things, and whether he wants to do those things. And
But he's improved every year, though, Adrian. Every year he's improved. Every year his ball handling has improved. His scoring has improved. Everything has improved every year. Everything has improved.
His scoring
his
has
ability
improved,
to rebound.
I don't know if when we mean his scoring has improved, or is it just the volume and the type of shots he takes, right? Because with that scheme the Celtics run, it's very statistically based, right? It's all about the long ball. The Celtics are one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league. He's not an efficient 3-point shooter, but he's a very high volume shooter, right? And when you have
is he a high volume shooter?
I think last year, I believe there was some statistics saying like he was quite a high volume shooter, and
he led the league. If I'm not mistaken, he led the league in shot attempts. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
he did shoot 46% though. He did shoot close to 50%. He shot over 45% though.
What was his 3-point shot? Because I remember there was a massive drop at some point in the season. Maybe it went back up, and maybe
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he shot the three higher than 35%. I know that for a fact.
35%. Okay.
I know he shot higher than 35%. I know that for a fact.
Okay, higher than 35%.
Yes, I do know that.
The big thing for me is, right, with all the spacing that the Celtics create, can Tatum get into that mid-range game to sort of exploit the defenses, right?
Right.
And can he ever be a point to where he can be an elite on-ball creator? I don't like having Tatum as the primary creator on that.
I don't like that neither. I don't like that neither.
Can he read the defense? Can he read that third screen? Can he read that third rotation? I don't think he can. But if he can reach that point, his ceiling is best player in the world, right? And I still think he can get there. But I just don't know what's the name of the coach? I forgot his name.
Mazzulla.
I don't think Mazzulla is going to want to coach that into Tatum. I think he wants him to strictly focus on pushing through the driving lanes, getting to the free throw line, which is very good. It's very efficient. It's efficient scoring, and getting that long ball down. I don't think the other aspects of his game, like the playmaking, like the mid-range game, to exploit aspects of the defense, are going to be looked into. And with Luka, a lot of the chat are disagreeing with you. I think I understand where you come from because you value defense more, and I fully understand that. I think the issue for me is right now I think Luka's a better playmaker than Tatum. And when you said that, I think you said Tatum has a higher ceiling than Luka, or something along those lines.
I do feel like he has a higher ceiling, even though I don't feel like Luka has reached his ceiling. I still think that there's room to grow for Luka. I just feel like with Tatum, I feel like there's more there, and I feel like with his growth, what I've seen so far, that's why I feel like he surpassed him for that reason right there.
I think Luka has more to show, and I think there is a level that Luka can reach, which I don't know if Tatum can reach for the reasons I've explained.
What are you looking at in terms of the third guy? Now we're talking about a primary ball handler in Luka. Tatum is not a primary ball handler,
exactly,
but he is an integral. That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that I can't make those reads because I'm not a primary ball handler. We're also talking about a guy who at the small forward spot, he's almost a 5 assists a game guy. Almost 5 assists a game. So he does know how to make that second and third read. He's doing that. He does know how to hot potato when the ball comes to him, and he's already looking over here at Marcus Smart, knowing that as soon as it comes to me, I'm firing it over. That's basically the next, I believe they call it the hockey assist, but he already sees him over there. Now, him getting into the teeth of the defense and making plays for guys like Al Horford, he just doesn't do that as frequently as Luka.
As consistently,
he doesn't do that as frequently as Luka. Does that mean that Luka is better than him at this? I would say that, absolutely. But is it miles ahead? If Jason Tatum decided if Jason Tatum decided to be a distributor more, are we having a different conversation? Hell yeah, we are. But that's just not his game. But he still can do that. And he's shown he can do that. We're talking about a dude, again, who averages almost 5 assists at the small forward spot, and he's not the primary ball handler. That's Luka. Luka is the primary ball handler. And with that being said, the idea that Jason Tatum hasn't been able to, the idea that people haven't seen him get better, and they're going off of, which boils my blood, you guys are going off the fact that he got outplayed at 24 years old in year 4 against Steph Curry. Is boggling my mind.
Yeah,
it's blowing my mind. It's making me nuts. Because if Luka got outplayed by Steph Curry, which he did, by the way, that's not a big deal. But Jason Tatum, on the other hand, folded up like a lawn chair, and he's not very good. That's incredible to me.
I think the argument for Luka is people think he can be an average defender. He'll never be an elite defender like Tatum. But I think he can have a better understanding on how to navigate screens because of his size, his efficiency, how to slow down guards. He'll never be able to be a shutdown defender, but how to slow them down, how to navigate screens, how to be a threat on the perimeter, and also his ability to understand. Because when he was at Real Madrid, he was a very good off-ball navigator. When he's got into the league, that's kind of gone, right? So can he get back to that, or can he learn how to find the balance on being that movement screener, finding the ways to help out his teammates on the off-ball movement, alongside of the fact that he's not a great catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. He's good
not if you let these people tell it. Luka is a knockdown long ball shooter.
He's very good when he has the ball.
If you let these people tell it, actually he's not. No, he isn't. He takes a lot of bad shots. A lot of bad shots.
I think this is they're statistically bad shots, but he makes them at a higher frequency than the average person or average NBA player. So statistically, it looks like it's weird. Statistically, it's a bad shot, but he just makes them at a higher frequency than other players. But he doesn't make catch and shoot 3-point shots at a good level. So those 3 things I do think he can get better at. And then when you look at his skill set already, and if he was to theoretically get better at those things, which I think is more likely to happen in that Maverick system, if he wants to, then I think it is in the Celtic system for the deficiencies that Tatum has, just because I don't think the Celtics want Tatum to do that, if that makes sense.
Even if that's true, even if that's true, and that is a very valid point. But I think we're overlooking, right? I think we're overlooking Andrew. He shoots a better percentage from 3 than Luka does for his career. And over the last 2 years, he shot a better percentage from 3. You know why? Because Luka takes a lot of bad shots from 3. A lot of off-dribble 25, 30-footers. Don't get me wrong. I don't love Jason Tatum at the long ball line. I do not. And I'm not going to make this I'm not going to make this show about Jason Tatum and Luka, because I want to talk about who the best player in the league is right now.
For sure, man.
ESPN has the best player in the league, and I got a problem with that. But guys like Andrew, who make me nuts because he's the epitome of a front runner, the epitome of a front runner. 1 minute, he's telling me that trade Jason Tatum, and the next minute, they're winning the NBA championship. So I do my best to tolerate him. And I'm sorry, Adrian, it was year 5. When they played, it was year 5. He was 24 years old. That's what I meant to say.
Because he was 19 when he came in the league, wasn't he?
Right. He was 24 years old when he did this. right? So when Steph Curry outplays Luka in the Western Conference Finals, Luka just wasn't that good. But if Jason Tatum gets outplayed, he choked.
Right. I think it's.
Can you make sense of that logic, please?
Yeah, 100. I think the problem is, right, Luka already had, it's stan culture, right? People don't support teams in the NBA; they support players, and the quantity of how many people support or stan your player will affect the narrative on that player. The narrative for Luka is he's the best player, he's the upcoming greatest player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tatum has that narrative to a certain extent, but people I think are getting tired of the constant almost getting there.
Isn't that the same logic? Isn't that the same logic with Luka though? Like, how far has Luka gotten? He's almost there too.
That's the thing. It's all narrative driven. It's just what kind of perspective you want to have. And
hey, Sampion, go do your homework. He shoots a better percentage for his career than Luka at the long ball line, Sampion. Go do your homework, please. And again, I don't want to make this conversation about Luka and Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum has jumped him this year. And I don't think he's jumped him 2 or 3 spots. I don't think that.
It's close.
I just feel like I still feel like it's right here. And I feel like Jason Tatum has jumped him. That's all. That's all I'm going to say about that. So
on the best player in the world thing, just before real quick, I value winning. And I just think Jokic is such a unguardable player, man. Like, he makes the game look so effortless. There are flaws in his game, but I also think there are flaws in Giannis's game.
Everybody's game. James got flaws in his game. KD got flaws in his game. Jason Tatum. All of these, Steph Curry got flaws in his game. All of these dudes got flaws in their game. All of them. I
also value what you did in the previous year when it comes to rankings for this year. Although when you were talking about the top 10, right? I don't know if it said it in the subheading or something. It's their projection on who will be better next year. I think that's what they were saying.
Even if that's true, even if that is true,
right?
Why wouldn't it be? Right? Why wouldn't it be? I don't get that part, because we're talking about
100%.
We're talking about the defending NBA champ, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the defending NBA champ who, if I'm being consistent with my logic, not Luka, I'm sorry, Joker, back-to-back league MVP.
All right.
Very next year, and we're talking about a playoff team that before they won the NBA championship, those 2 years, he took a team that wasn't very good. He lost his second best player in the middle of the season, and they still managed to hold on to the 3 seed in the Western Conference. The very next year, he doesn't have his best player, and he also loses MPJ, and he still manages to keep this team at a 6 seed. Do I think he should have won the league MVP that year? I'm having a difficult time with that.
What's crazy, Chill, is if you look
at a league MVP level, he was playing at that level, so I'm cool with that. I got no problem with that. But with playing like that, playing at that level, and then the next year winning the NBA championship in the dramatic fashion that he did, and winning the Finals MVP, if I'm being consistent in my logic, that's the best player on the planet.
Best player in the world.
That's the best player on the planet.
This is where it comes to narratives now, right? Because who is the favorite to win the NBA championship?
Why wouldn't it be Denver? They got their whole team back.
All right.
Are we really holding Denver back because of losing Bruce Brown and Jeff Green? Are we really holding them back for that?
So this is the issue with narratives, right? The idea is, now here's the only thing against Denver, right? Is that bench unit going to be better as a whole? Can it mesh better? Because we've seen when you rely on young players to immediately win now and not go through those growing pains of making mistakes because you need to win now, it sometimes won't work. So that's the only thing with the Denver second unit. You hear a lot of people talking about it. It is like there's a lot of inconsistencies and holes in that second unit right now. Maybe when we get into the year, slowly it'll come together. That's the only thing with Denver I'm worried about. The reason why I think I come back to the narratives thing is the Bucks made the flashy trade for Dame. They look at that combination with Dame and Giannis, and they're projecting that the Bucks will win the title. So that's why they're putting Giannis above Jokic. I think that's all it is. I think it's pure narratives. That's how they do these rankings, narratives, and how they project the season's going to go. Even though we might disagree because we are looking at the previous record and the previous CV, which indicates that Joker, these past 2 seasons, I'd say, has been better than Giannis. I
think he's the best player on the planet.
Exactly. Me too. Like, you cannot guard him.
I'm having a difficult. I'm not even on the fact that you can't, because you can't guard Giannis neither. That's not what I'm on. I'm on the fact of what he produced. I care about what you produce.
Production.
I am tired of 100%. This. I am tired of this better at basketball logic, because LeBron James is better at basketball than Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki outplayed him. Kobe Bryant is better at basketball than Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups outplayed him.
Right.
I can continue. I've seen better basketball players, or players who are better at basketball, get outplayed. And when you get outplayed, even though you're better at basketball, that doesn't mean you better. That does not mean you're better. So anyway.
Just real quick before I head off, because I think I sent you a super chat on one of your shows. I just want to really quickly address something and clarify something before I let the other guys talk. There was a point I made, because I think some of you guys were talking about the process. And I was saying, if you guys think the Philly owners are bad, you should see the Reinsdorfs. And I think you guys went on a tangent, like, why do you hate the Reinsdorfs? What's going on? Because they don't want to pay money. They don't want to tank. So you're in this horrible middle ground where you basically are stuck in the middle of the NBA. The Bulls have only ever paid the luxury tax once in 30 years because they don't want to pay it. So you're in the third biggest city, the third richest franchise, the third richest market. You don't want to pay any money. Okay. You don't want to pay for a shooting coach until 2023. You don't want to develop players. That's why all the young players in the Bulls go away and they actually develop properly, like Lauri Markkanen and these guys.
Yeah. I get it.
Yo, can you hear me? Yeah, that's
brother.
The issue I had with Jerry Reinsdorf as an owner, because he just hires bad people to make decisions and refuses to actually run the organization as an actual competent organization. That's why I said he's the worst owner in the NBA.
That's fair.
But yeah.
All right, Adrian. I'll get with you, brother. Hey, Nick, let me tell you what Nick is trying to do. This is what Nick just said. This is the worst logic right here. So if Booker outplays Luka in a series, Luka still won't be better. Wait a minute. Nick, can you continue with your comment, sir? Like what I just said? If Book outplays Luka in a series, and what? Don't just say if he outplays him in a series. If he outplays him in a series, and what? Don't shortchange it. The reason why you're confused is because you're not putting the whole math problem together. You're just saying 2+. Say the whole thing, sir. Again, if Devin Booker outplays Luka in a series, and what? Yes, that's the point. Better players get outplayed and they lose. That's why I don't buy that logic. I'm not trying to hear that.
Yo, what's up? What's up?
What up?
So I just had to tap into this Luka versus Tatum conversations, because I just don't understand how Jason Tatum could possibly pass Luka Doncic. Jason Tatum has had one of the best rosters in the NBA since he came into the league. Luka Doncic outproduces him. He's made 3 straight All-NBA teams. He's a better floor raiser. He's a top 3 scorer in the NBA, top 3 pass playmaker in the NBA. And in the playoffs, he's more consistent. Jason Tatum, I just don't understand how he deals.
That's not true. That's not true. You just said he has. You just said he has one of the top 3 rosters. You do understand that he didn't just inherit that. So they got Marcus Smart in 2015. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so when they got Marcus Smart, how good were they?
They were all right.
No, they weren't very good at all. No, they weren't very good. That's how they got that. So then the next year they get Jaylen Brown, who's also awesome. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Jaylen Brown, he's pretty deep.
Okay, so then the next year they get Jason Tatum. The very next year they get Jason Tatum.
Yes.
So Gordon Hayward gets hurt. Now Jason Tatum, as a rookie, is now playing. So I got a guy who's in year 2 in Marcus Smart. I got a guy who just finished year 1. I'm sorry, I got a guy in year 3 in Marcus Smart in the beginning of the 17-18 season. I got a guy in year 2 in Jaylen Brown. I got a rook in Jason Tatum. And then 2 years after that, they get Robert Williams. and Al Horford, who at that point had been in the league, and Al Horford had already been on the crew. He came back to the Boston Celtics. But he had been in the league for 10 years at that point. So in terms of a much better roster, it's not like he jumped on a bomb squad. They built that.
He also had Terry Rozier as well, putting up 8 points a game.
Exactly, he did have him, and Luka Doncic had Jalen Brunson. But with that being said,
he also had Marcus Moore as well.
And I'd like to think, and I'd like to think that Jalen Brunson is better than Terry Rozier, but that's another conversation. What I'm saying is, when I think about the improvement that Jason Tatum has made since he walked in the door, Luka was already polished coming into the game, already playing the pro game. Jason Tatum, 1 year of college, that's it. Very raw coming into the NBA. Shouldn't even play that rook season. The only reason why he played is because Gordon Hayward got hurt. If Gordon Hayward doesn't get hurt, he ain't playing. He is not playing, which he shouldn't be because he just got the job. So with that being said, he plays and he balls as a rookie. And every season after that, he's improving. He had a career year last year in year 6. A career year. Led all small forwards in rebounding. His ability to pass, all of these things have improved. His ability to score has gone up every year, not just because of volume, because there's plenty of guys who are shooting the basketball and they're getting no results, none whatsoever. Jason Tatum is actually shooting the ball and there's results coming from that. He's scoring more points. So with that being said, I'm not saying that it's like, yo, he just did this. I already felt like 2 years ago that this was going to be a conversation. And nobody listened to me. They thought that I was ridiculous. But that season that just passed, I feel like he just did this. I don't feel like he did this. I feel like he did this. And I feel like this season coming up, I feel like there's going to be more separation. I think he's going to win the league MVP this year. I think the Boston Celtics are winning the NBA championship this year. But that's just me.
But the thing is, though, Jason Tatum has gotten better. I know he has. But I don't even think Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum are like close. I think Luka Doncic is just clearly better than him because he's just a more consistent. He outproduces him at every level in the playoffs in a regular season. He's playing with a much worse team, and he's still elevating to make the playoffs almost every year. He just missed the playoffs this year. For the trade, they were a top 4 seed on the Western Conference, and Luka Doncic is playing the MVP. He's actually on pace to win the MVP. Luka Doncic is a top 3 scorer in the NBA. He's a top 3 playmaker in the NBA. More consistent in the playoffs with way less help. And if I'm being honest, you put Luka Doncic on that Boston Celtics team, they win a championship. You put you put Jason Tatum on this Mavericks team, they first round exits.
I'm not buying
both situations.
The reason why I'm not buying that, I'm not buying that.
Luka in both situations, Luka in the Mavericks jersey, it's when Luka's on the team. Luka in Boston, it's better when Luka's on the team. Because Luka Doncic he's just way more impactful. He's just way more impactful than Jason Tatum.
The reason why I'm not buying that is because that unit in Dallas is built around Luka's skill set. That team wouldn't be built like that if Jason Tatum was on it. So that's an unfair comparison. Just like if Luka got on that crew right from the beginning, we're talking about a different Luka. If he got on that crew in 2017, now they have time to grow as opposed to just throwing him in that lineup with the Boston Celtics and they're winning it just off the strip that he's a good player. Just because you're an awesome player does not mean it's going to work with everybody. That does not mean that. Prime example would be KD. We saw what happened when KD jumped on that Phoenix unit. Just because you awesome doesn't mean that your game is going to travel immediately. That's not the way that works. And Jason Tatum in Dallas, they would build that team differently around him. That's an unfair comparison because they built that unit in Dallas around Luka Doncic's skill set. If Jason Tatum was on Dallas from the beginning, they would build that unit around him and his skill set. So that's an unfair comparison.
Yeah, but I honestly think, I think if you put Luka Doncic in Jason Tatum's situation with the players that he's playing with elite level defenders. He's playing with great offensive players. He's playing with better players on both sides of the basketball. You put Luka Doncic in that situation with the Boston Celtics, bro, they're now losing to an 8th seed. They're beating the Miami Heat. The number one problem that the Boston Celtics have is passing and playmaking, and Luka Doncic is the top 3 passer and playmaker in the NBA. Luka Doncic is a much better scorer than Jason Tatum. He's a much better mid-range scorer, much better post scorer, much better at getting to the rim, much better at drawing fouls. He just clears him as an offensive player, and he just clears him. You have to
respectfully agree to disagree, my man, because I'm not buying none of this. I'm sorry, brother. We're gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm sorry. What up?
What's good, OG?
What up?
What's up? So the season about to start, and I was wondering, who do you think gonna come out the West and the East this year?
The road to the NBA championship goes through the Denver Nuggets.
Mm-hmm. So you got the Denver Nuggets repeating?
No, I got Boston winning it.
Boston? Man, I don't know about Boston, Chilltown.
You asked me? Did you just ask me who you got? Is that what you just said? Did you not just ask me who I got?
Yeah, but
okay. So there you go.
I appreciate it.
All right, no doubt, brother.
Yo, OG.
What up?
I got one question. You just said Curry outplayed Luka. How? I just want to know how. How did Curry outplay Luka in the playoffs?
In the Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, how?
What do you mean?
Did Luka average 32?
And what did Steph Curry do?
He won.
No, keep going. Don't just stop. I mean, just because you win doesn't mean you outplay somebody. No.
Listen. For me, it's like Curry outplayed Tatum. I mean, Tatum played terrible in the final series.
I don't think he was awful. I don't think he was terrible.
He was terrible.
If he was terrible, then the Warriors would have swept him. Let's be clear about that. He wasn't terrible. Okay?
Jaylen Brown stepped up.
He just wasn't. He did step up.
Jaylen Brown was the better player in that series.
Exactly, he was. He did do better. Yes, he did. But that doesn't. But with that being said, he wasn't terrible. When I think about terrible, I think about James in the finals in 2011. That was terrible. When I think about terrible, I think about the Lakers in 2004. That was terrible. When I think about terrible, Jason Tatum wasn't terrible in the finals. He just wasn't very good. That's all.
He was bad. He was bad, wasn't it? He was bad, right?
I just said no. Once again,
he wasn't even bad.
So you keep saying he was bad. No, he wasn't very good. I think Jason
Tatum.
The turnover record. If I'm not mistaken, well, he didn't break the turnover record in the finals. He did that throughout the playoff run.
In the playoff run, yeah.
Right. Just like anybody else did.
Hold on. You just said if Tatum wanted to do more of the playmaking, he could have, and that's just a lie.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
I did not say that. He could do that.
No, what I said was if he concentrated on that. I didn't say if he wanted to do
that.
If he concentrated on being more of a passer, he could be a better passer.
You can say that about any player. You can say that about any player.
Really?
If Luka concentrated to shoot the three better, he could. I mean,
but he doesn't.
That's not an argument. That's not an argument.
The same logic goes with the same logic with Jason Tatum. But that doesn't mean that he's a bad passer. That doesn't mean that he's a bad playmaker. He's still a damn good playmaker. If he concentrated on being a better playmaker, he could be.
I mean,
but he's not bad at it.
The last few years, they had no playmaker on the roster. So if Tatum was able to do it, why didn't he do it?
They had no playmaker on the roster with the Celtics.
Marcus Smart is not a real point guard.
So what is a real point guard then?
A real point guard is CP3. He can't be a real point guard.
So you got to be John Stockton in order to.
John Stockton, yeah.
I got that. So you got to be John Stockton. You got to be Magic in order to be that. Even though Marcus Smart is a solid playmaker, even though he is a solid playmaker, but which one is it, my man? You either bad or you good. It's like you can't be solid and not be good. That doesn't work.
He's a decent playmaker.
Okay, so is he decent? I think Marcus Smart is a little bit better than decent because you look at playmaking different than I do. You look at playmaking completely different than I do. I look at playmaking on both sides of the basketball. I don't just look at it on the offensive side of the basketball. You being a playmaker is not just you being a passer. You make plays in a number of different ways. That's what playmakers do. And Marcus Smart is a lot better. And Marcus Smart is a better playmaker overall than you've given him credit for. 100%.
He's not bad. He's not bad. I'm not saying that.
You just said he was bad. You just did.
But again, OG, we got off the topic. Like Luka went head to head with Curry. We both know that. I mean, he just averaged 32, 9, and 6 in that series. He went head to head with him. But again, he had a worse supporting cast than Curry had. But Tatum on the other side, he averaged 21 points in that series. Had plenty of turnovers, had plenty of bad plays.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Luka, I mean, and that's the point. Luka never had a bad series in his life. Even the series against the Clippers, he took them to a game 7. Kawhi and PG. I mean,
and lost in the first round, sure, with KP, who didn't have a clue what they were doing because they didn't know how to use them. But
that's not his fault.
Yes, it is.
That's coaching. That's coaching.
Yes, it is.
Luka
is not as simple to play with as people think he is. He is not.
It's now on his 4th team.
He is on his 4th team.
Yeah.
Actually, is this his 4th team from the Knicks?
New York, Dallas, Washington, and now Boston.
Right. And I think he's going to fit right in with what they're doing, and because they actually know what they're doing with him. They actually know what they're doing with him. But Jason Tatum, who this is the first time he had been to the NBA Finals, and again, I'm talking about a Jason Tatum who came in less polished than Luka. He wasn't nearly as polished as Luka when he first showed up. And a Jason Tatum who got to the NBA Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, who got to the NBA Finals on the strength of him figuring it out. Jason Tatum is a lot better than you giving him credit for. We're talking about a guy who, as his career has progressed, he's gotten better. Never been to the NBA Finals. Going up against a guy in Steph Curry, who had been there plenty of times. And we're talking about a guy in Steph Curry who I'd like to think, like you just said, him playing against Luka in the Western Conference Finals. I think Luka went what, 32
9-6 was,
yeah,
I think
32 9-6, and they basically they ended up handling the Golden State ended up handling Dallas, and they handled Dallas on the strength of, if I'm not mistaken, they handled Dallas on the strength of who?
What you mean?
How did they handle Dallas? Because I'd like to think that series, I'd like to think that series, as good as Luka was, I mean, why wasn't it better? I mean, because again, I mean, Steph Curry, what did he got? I think what did he average in that series?
I think it was around like 30.
No, he didn't average that much.
Not even that much.
No, he didn't average 30. It was something
I remember Curry's
like
average.
24 or 25 and 7.
I think it was a little bit more than that.
Yeah. It was something like that. And, you know, we're talking about a guy in Luka who, again, 32 a game. He's responsible for everybody else's offense because that team is constructed around his skill set. So I can't fight that.
Let me say something about that, OG. Let me say something about that.
So of course it's going to be different. But
hold on. You always talk about the team. Didn't Finney Smith got traded to the Nets? How did he look? He played terrible.
Because
in the game with Smith. Hold on. Where is Bullock right now?
We already know. Wait, what are you arguing? What are you arguing?
Luka makes them better.
You know why? Because and you know why, sir? You know why?
And once they leave Luka, they can't play just as good as with him.
And you know why? Because they're built around Luka's skill set. That's why.
Yeah, so Luka makes his teammates better.
Right.
He makes them better. So they're not
because they're built around his skill set. If that team was built around somebody else's skill set, they would do that. And they would look the way that they do because the team is constructed around them. I think it's a lot less I think it's a lot harder to get on a crew. If we're building a unit around you and around your specific skill set, I don't think it's that difficult for you to flourish because we're building a unit around you. If you're getting on a crew where we're all figuring it out and then you emerge as the best player, I think that's completely different. And I'd like to think that that's a little bit better, especially considering what Jason Tatum has done. I mean, Marcus Smart in 2015 shows up. Jaylen Brown shows up in 2016. Jason Tatum shows up in 17. Robert Williams shows up in 19. There is no clear cut guy on this crew. There isn't. But he emerges as the guy. And now he is the guy.
Ridiculous. The Celtics draft ridiculous. They got a great front office. And with those guys being that, those guys ended up panning out. And we see what Dallas front office do. They don't even extend Brunson.
That was wrong. Letting him walk out the front door was dumb. That was awful. Meanwhile, the Celtics let Kyrie Irving walk out the front door, addition by subtraction. And it worked.
They're doing a great job. I'm saying they're doing a great job. So again,
even though they haven't built that unit around Jason Tatum, he just emerged as the best player. I mean, that's a pretty big. That's a big deal.
Just look at the circumstances. Tatum got a better head coach, better front office, better team. It's always been better for him.
Well, Jaylen Brown.
I'm not a fan of Jason Kidd.
I'm not either.
I think he has no idea what he's doing.
I'm not gonna go that far, but I'm not that big a fan of him. I just think that I think that you and I are gonna have to respectfully agree to disagree. Because I think that Jason Tatum he's jumped Luka. I don't think he's jumped him by leaps and bounds. I think it's not. If we run in 100 yards, I think Jason Tatum ran it in a 9.74 and Luka ran it in a 9.76.
Okay,
I think they're like this.
Besides defense, what does Tatum do better?
What does he do? What has he done better?
Yeah, what does he done better?
I think he's improved his ball handling. I think he's improved.
Is he better than Luka at ball handling? Is he a better ball handler than Luka?
I don't think Luka is a much better ball handler than Jason Tatum. I don't think that. No,
he's a better ball handler. I'm not saying much, but he's definitely a better ball handler.
Definitely a better ball handler.
You gotta give me that.
No, I won't give you that because I don't think Luka is a much better ball handler. I think it's.
I'm not saying much better, but he's a better ball handler.
No, I'm not. I'm not. My man, listen. You are not moving me with Luka. I'm good.
How is Luka not a better ball handler?
I'm good, man. I'm out. I'm good. I'm straight. I'm good.
That's ridiculous.
I'm good. What up, D? What up, D?
What up with you, bro?
What up, yo?
Not much, bro. I'm listening to this conversation. This stuff sounds crazy. Oh, sorry about that.
Mama, he talking basketball, honey.
Yeah, I'm talking basketball.
We talking basketball. We ain't doing nothing. We all right. Yeah. I ain't trying to get into no trouble. All we doing is talking basketball. That's all we doing, mama.
Right. We good. We good.
We all right.
I think you on point with that. What you saying? I think coming in the league, Luka clearly better player.
It was Jason like this. Tatum, just so you know, D, it was like it wasn't close.
Right. Right. And people are ignoring the fact that Luka can only play one way. He has to be on the ball to be effective. Jason Tatum doesn't have to be on the ball to be an effective player. And he doesn't.
He actually plays off the ball.
Exactly. So people are like, oh, well, he gets more assists. He's not right. If Luka doesn't have the ball, he's just standing. He's not effective. People forget Dennis Smith Jr. was on the team. They went with Luka because they want a team of 3-and-D guys who could just sit on the wing, let Luka operate everything. Like I can dribble, shoot any shot I want. Jason Tatum didn't have that. Jason Tatum is on a team with Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, guys that are effective, and playing with them, they don't have to back their game off. That's one of the reasons they got rid of Brunson as well. One, they didn't want to pay him as much, the Mavericks.
Which is goofy. That $100 million today, right, is like 10 cents on the dollar that they would have got him for.
Exactly. So it's like
that $100 million, that was peanuts for what you're gonna have to pay for him 3 years from now. That's
exactly.
Peanuts.
Exactly.
What you gonna now have to pay him now? Y'all crazy for letting him walk up the front door. You
crazy
super right.
And people keep saying, well, if you switch teams, your logic is correct. If you switch teams, one, they don't need just 3-and-D guys around Jason Tatum.
No.
The reason they need 3-and-D guys around Luka is because he can't defend nobody. People only paying attention to one side of the ball, also not realizing that Luka just has the ball all the time. He's kind of going to be, to me, it's like, I don't think he's a player. Similar to like James Harden. Good player, gets all the stats, but you can't bring other stars around him and him to be able to be just flourish like he was in Houston. Stuff like that. Like, he has to back his game off so his numbers go back down. If you put a guy like Luka on the Celtics, you're not taking 30 shots. We got Jaylen Brown over here. We got Marcus Smart. They got what's the boy that came from
Jaylen Brown,
Dallas?
Marcus Smart.
The boy that came from Dallas that was with Luka, and they had no idea what to do with him.
Who am I thinking of?
Porzingis?
Yes, Porzingis. And even before Porzingis, they got Derek White. This not this season, just last season. They had Grant Brogdon. Williams, Robert Williams. So they had Brogdon. So
you can't
Luka is not going to be on the basketball like he is in Dallas. Which means that we got guys who can create their own offense. Which means that 30 a game, I think that's going to look a lot different.
It's going to go down just like Harden's did. It's not going to be the same. And even if you put a star with him like Kyrie, it's going to be kind of like adding when Houston put Westbrook in with James Harden. It's like y'all both do the same thing. So, like, there's a reason like Finney Smith bringing him up is stupid. Like, I'm sorry, that was a dumb take that he had talking about Finney Smith. I was like, what does that mean? Clearly, no, they didn't want players that need the ball to be effective. They wanted guys that could just sit on the wing, watch him do what he does, let him get his thing off, and then pass it when he ain't got nothing left.
When you are the franchise player from the beginning, by the way, like it's not like it's not like it's over time. Like right from the beginning, from the ground roots, we're building this unit around your skill set.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing. It's not like we're just going to get the best players. No. We're building this unit around what your skill set is.
Exactly.
Luka plays on the basketball. He's a playmaker. Not only does he play on the basketball, he's a distributor. That's his game. Mm-hmm. Jason Tatum, on the other hand, he jumps on a unit that we don't even know what we're doing in terms of we don't even know what we have in this kid. Let's make sure we get to the bottom. I've said this I've said this again. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. If Haywood doesn't get hurt, Tatum isn't playing as a rook.
You're right.
He's not playing as a rook.
Because that's what they brought him there for. He
was going to play behind. He was going to play behind Haywood, and he was going to learn. Except Haywood gets hurt. We find out, oh shit, we got a baller, and we don't even know it.
We thought.
We got a baller, and we didn't even know it. So now this accelerates the process. Well, wait a minute. We got to start pushing this guy to the forefront, and he emerges with all of these draft picks that you have as the best player.
Yeah, he emerged into it, and his improvement. I'm sorry, Luka's a beast, but I haven't seen so much improvement. I've seen him come in the league and improve going there, but for the past 2-3 years, I mean, Luka's been doing Luka stuff. Jason Tatum, on the other hand, I've seen the improvement from the first year to second year. He's climbed up the whole time. Luka, and I do agree with what you're saying. He's caught Luka, not by much, but he's caught.
I thought that the gap was closing year by year. I feel like
it was closing quickly.
I feel like at the end of this season, this is where it's going to be.
Yeah, and bring that Golden State series
not like this. I feel like it's this.
That's how I feel too. It's like because for years they've been talking about Luka going to be the guy, and now it's like, well,
just so you know,
they've got something to say about it.
In the last 3 years, Luka has been projected to be the league MVP. He's finished 5th. He's finished 8th. I mean, I could keep going. So
I feel you.
I really didn't want to get into I didn't want this to be dominated by a Luka conversation. It's obvious that these people think Luka is way better than I do.
Not
that I don't think he's awesome, because I think he can play. I think that Jason Tatum has closed the gap, and I think that he at the end of the season he hops him.
I think he did too.
That's
just
the end
by
of
a little bit, and then next season
we having a different conversation,
right? And one take I did have that you did say, you think Jokic is better than Giannis?
I do, and hear me out, D.
All right,
and hear me out, and the reason why I say that is because I'm being consistent with my logic.
Yes, you are. You have said that.
I'm being consistent with my logic, and I don't just look at. And I said that you probably hear a broken record when I hear people say better at basketball. I don't just go off of that. And the reason why I don't go off of that is because I've seen better basketball players get outplayed. I'm sure you heard this. LeBron James is better at basketball than Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki outplayed him.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant is better at basketball than Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups outplayed him. So I don't just go off the fact that you're better at basketball. That's not enough. And when we're talking about the best player on the planet, we're talking about winning matters.
It does matter. I do agree it does matter. Now,
and with that being said,
That is your logic, though. But take your logic out of it. Realistically, looking at both players, who do you think is better?
I had to walk back
as a complete player.
That's what I'm saying. I had to walk back my logic. This was earlier in the season, in the 22-23 season. I thought Giannis was a better offensive player than Joker, but then I had to walk that back because I watched Joker and I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta. That's not going to work.
I agree with you on that. That's not where Giannis gets him.
That dude offensively, that dude is better than that.
Yeah,
dude.
he's a beast.
Because initially I'm watching Giannis and I'm watching his skill set and how important he is to that Milwaukee offense and how he was getting Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis, how he goes downhill and playmates and gets other guys involved, goes in and beats up on big men, all of that good stuff, passes the basketball within the half court. When I saw all of this, I'm like, I think he might be better than Joker as an offensive player. Then I started watching Joker more.
I started watching him more too.
Wait a minute. I think I'm wrong about that. Let me.
More.
And then I walked that back because I recognized I was wrong for that. Because
that's not where Giannis wins to me, in my opinion. I think the defense, kind of like even the conversation with Luka. Yes, you're great on offense. Defensively, I think that gap, because I think offensively he's all right. Let's say Giannis is a 7. Joker is a 10. Okay, offensively. And people will go be like, well, the way Joker can do this and hit the 3 and do all that fancy stuff. I don't care how you do it. If you're producing the points, it doesn't matter. Okay. Shaq couldn't shoot the 3, couldn't do that, but you couldn't stop him. And that's kind of how Giannis is. So I give him a 7 and I give Jokic a 10 on offense. Now when we go to defense. Oh, come on now. Come on
now. Before we go any further, D, and I will give you the defensive side of the basketball. However, when we're talking about a gap, Joker does do things that 5 men do. So, OG, what do you mean? Okay, so I think he was 3rd in the league in contested shots, right? He was 3rd in the league in contested shots. I think that he was 3rd in the league or 4th in the league in rebounding. So the fact that I'm not fast as you, I'm still running. I'm trying to run. I mean, I'm running. I'm just saying as fast as you, but I'm still running. It ain't like I ain't trying, because you and I have seen guys on defense who you want to throw the TV out the window.
James Harden.
Get him off my TV, D. Get him off my TV before I swear to God, I'm going to snatch this thing off the wall because I can't handle him. I can't.
Yes.
I can't handle this. But then, because there's some effort, then you could rock with him. But when there's nothing there, but Joker will give me effort.
He does, kind of like Curry early on.
Joker will rebound. Joker will rim contest. Joker will be a paint presence. He will dig while he's he can't jump over a ham sandwich with lettuce,
but he put his hands up.
Mayonnaise on it. He will dig his hands up. He will. So I mean, I think winning matters when we're talking about the best player on the planet.
That might be the push over the edge too. But also I've been hearing a lot of people saying,
and it ain't like this. It's like this. It's not like
on
this.
On defense, what do you think? If you give it a number on defense, what do you think it is?
From an effort standpoint, I mean, Joker's a 10, but from an actual producing standpoint, he's a 4. He's a 4, 5. Giannis is a 9. I'm surprised Giannis didn't make the All-League defensive team last season. I'm surprised about it. That still bugged me out that he didn't. But if we're going off effort, of course, Joker right at the top of the league because he damn sure trying. Man. I just ain't that good.
That's participation trophy type stuff.
He damn sure trying. Please,
he's trying.
He damn sure trying.
He's not good.
All right, D, I'm gonna let you go,
all right, brother.
Good to talk to you. What up?
Yo, what's good, Chill, man? What's good, Chill? Here's the thing. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna wrap things up with 2 quick points, and then I'm gonna actually answer your question, which is, what qualifies you to be the best player in the world? Right. All right. So let's wrap things up. Number 1, a lot of cat been said on both sides of the Luka and the Tatum thing. I know you ain't try to make it like that type of stream, but I just want to debunk a few things. Number 1, last year Tatum attempted 21 shots per game. Luka attempted 22 shots per game. Not that big of a difference. Number 2, the same pieces that you would put around Tatum, you would definitely need those same pieces for Luka, right? Like let's break it down. Doesn't Luka has a guy as the second option who can get a bucket on his own, and make plays for others, right? Like Jaylen Brown and Kyrie that can produce 20-some odd points on their own, correct, Joe?
27, 20 something, 20 plus, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, okay, then we move to, I believe both guys benefit and definitely needs 3-point shooters, right? And defenders to help them mitigate their energy, like Tatum has with this current team. Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Al Horford. Same thing for Luka with Grant Williams and their other additions to the team as well, right?
I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I think Luka needs that more than Jason Tatum does.
No, of course, different degrees, but the same, similar parts, right? Similar parts.
Are you trying to suggest to me that they build that unit the same way around Luka as they would around Jason Tatum? Skill set?
I'm saying you're going to need very similar components and type and player styles just like for each other. It's just the difference is with Tatum, you need a playmaker. Then opposed to Luka, you need a guy that can create for his own and a little more defense. And same thing for Tatum, you need a little more offense. That's all, but you get into similar parts. But the point is, I was saying you're not just building a team around a franchise guy based off the skill set. You're also building a team constructed off a scheme. So I don't like the fact that Luka is a ball dominant player. That's only because he's asked to be. Chill. You said it multiple times. Just because a player shows something doesn't mean he can't do something.
Correct.
Last time I checked, Luka has shown to play off ball under different coaches, even though there was overseas in FIBA games in the previous EuroLeagues he participated in. He's still shown the ability to play off ball when he's asked to do that. But when you have got coaches like Jason Kidd, Rick Carlisle, who has publicly said multiple times that our offensive objective is to get the ball in Luka's hands for majority of the game. So I can't fault Luka for being a ball down player. We simply asked to be that. And then you follow it up with the fact that, chill, this dude is nasty. We talking about one, the underrated aspect of the game, chill, that you and I both know, control the pace of the game. Luka's one of the best players at that. He will slow the pace down. If you're a team like Memphis, you're a team like the Kings, you're trying to get up and down, the man's going to slow the pace down. We're going to play our game. He's one of the best players in the league doing that. That's number one. Number two, chill, he's top 5 in producing points and 3 different shot selections, right? Pick and roll, isolation, and the most underrated thing, chill, that you appreciate more, especially as a fan of the big men, is the post up. This dude, Luka, is one of the best post up players in the league. So when you say that he didn't, I understand you're emphasizing Jason Tatum's growth. We also got to recognize Luka's growth as a player too. Became a better player. He became a slightly better shooter, but most importantly, chill, he became a more diverse scorer. For a point guard, for a guy like Luka to be one of the best post players in the league, that tells you something. So there's a reason why majority of people have Luka above Tatum. And last thing, chill, I won't mind to leave out the accolades. We're talking about a guy in Luka who never stayed away from first team All-NBA. And chill, you that weighs heavily in your criteria. We talking about guys that he's getting first team All-NBA over guys like Curry, Dame, Russ, CP3, and he's living in first team All-NBA. So that means something.
That's it.
So to wrap it up,
keep going.
Both guys are top 10 players. Both guys are the future of this league. I just think I have Luka right now top 5, and I have Jason Tatum 7. I do agree with you. Whoever you got is not a far gap.
Not according to these people. No, not according to these people. Luka clears Jason Tatum. It's not close. He clears Jason Tatum. According to these, he clears him. According to these people. So you talk about the pace of the game, right? You talk about the pace of the game. Luka's one of the worst transition defenders in the game. He's one of the worst transition defenders that I've ever seen. So in terms of speeding up the game, he has nothing to do with that. And the reason why he has nothing to do with that,
slow down the game.
That's my point. That's my point. The fact that he can't slow the game down. In fact, the game gets sped up with him as a transition defender because he's so bad as a transition defender, which explains why you got to put defenders around him to slow the game down. Because if you're relying on him, you have no shot. Guys like De'Aaron Fox, the Golden State Warriors. They're going to speed the game up, and he's not going to be able to do anything about that. That's number one. Number two, Jason Tatum, his ability to get in the paint, his ability to score at the rim. I believe if I'm not mistaken, I think that he shoots a better percentage at the rim than Luka Doncic. On the box, I believe 3 to 5 feet away from the basket, he shoots a higher percentage than Luka does. With that being said, he actually shoots better for his career on the long ball. And if you think about what Jason Tatum shooting the long ball, which I hate, but I hate Luka shooting the long ball too. They both take bad shots shooting the long ball. Both of them do. I hate Jason Tatum at the long ball. Let me rephrase that. I don't hate Jason Tatum at the long ball line. I just don't like him there as much as he's there. Just like I don't like Luka at the long ball line as much as he's there. I think Luka could serve his team much better if he played a little bit more in the mid-range as opposed to playing on the long ball line. Right, and he does play in the mid-range. I think that would serve Jason Tatum a little bit better if he did that a little more too. But the difference the difference here is we're talking about on the defensive side of the basketball, and we're also talking about a better athlete. And because we're talking about a better athlete, that ties into finishing around the basket. That ties into hopping in the lane and getting over the top of bigger guys, unlike Luka does. So when I think about Luka in terms of his skill set, it's no longer superior to what Jason Tatum's was when he came into the game. When he first came into the game, I felt like Luka's skill set was superior to Jason Tatum. I felt like years later, the gap has closed, and I feel like now this is where we are. And at the end of the season, I think this is where Jason Tatum will be.
All right, that's fair. To answer your question, Chill, what qualifies to be the best player? Right, I see it as this. First thing, you gotta be a top 5 player for at least 2 to 3 years. 3 consecutive years, you gotta at least be in the conversation.
That matters, man. You can't just turn around and be the best player on the planet one day out the blue. No.
That probably happened like maybe once or twice in NBA history.
Never in my lifetime. Never in my lifetime.
Well, you probably remember Kareem did it, and then Bill will. You know what I'm saying? They have probably a case to saying I was the best player coming in, but that's how rare it is, right? But the point is to be the best player. 2 to 3 consecutive years to be a top 5 player. Agree?
You have to be.
Okay. Second thing is, I think you do have, even though I don't like violent, but it has to be a thing. You have to be in a conversation for MVPs those consecutive years as well. The regular season matters. We're not just the playoffs is where, to quote the great Walt Frazier, in the regular season you make your name, in the playoffs you make your fame. And I understand playoffs is important, but the regular season matters too. We talking about 82 games of a grind marathon for you to maintain your focus and production. So for you to be in conversation for MVP, it means you're perceived as one of the most prolific, top-notch players of your era, right?
Correct.
Last thing, I think. No, 2 more things. In the playoffs, you got to ball out. Let's be honest here. Like I don't know any best player that on a consistent basis declined, that didn't show up when his team needed him most. And then lastly, I'm not going to tie it too much to winning, but I do tie it into you make your team competitive. Are you making your team competitive in the playoffs as well for a 2 to 3 stretch? And I think those are the minimum qualifications to be the best player in the world, right? And once you sit that out, you want to get about 2 or 3 players. Once you sit that out, that's when I believe you got to go down to the peak. Who do you think at their best is the better player? And who has displayed their best in those 2 to 3 years that we were referring to? And that's how I think you determine the best player.
So who's the best player on the planet today? In 2020, in October of 2023, who is the best player on the planet?
In my opinion, I think it's slightly Giannis still. I think even though he did get hurt, even though they did lose in the first round, like I said, everything matters too. There was a 3-man race for MVP. People forget that too. People forget there's a 3-man race for MVP. Embiid led the league in scoring, hasn't been done back-to-back. Only other players to do it since 2000 was him and Shaq. Joker, obviously a historic season, but Giannis also a historic season too. Since Wilt Chamberlain, no other player has averaged 30, 12, and 5 on that level of efficiency. It's not since Wilt.
Correct.
And so for him, it's still playing elite defense at that. So for him to recognize that production chill and the fact that even with his hampered injuries in the first round, he still showed growth in his game too.
Mm-hmm.
Giannis, as a playmaker, is getting better. If you saw on the even times where he was hobbled, he was making a lot of good reads, especially in the pick and roll. So I believe, in my opinion, I think at their best, you're getting a top 10 offensive player, a top 5 rebounder, and most importantly, arguably the best defensive player at Giannis' best in comparison to Joker. Now, Joker, on the other hand, you are getting a top 5 rebounder. You are getting arguably the best offensive player in the game, one of the arguably the best passer and playmaker in the game. You are getting that as well. However, especially as a big man, chill, as an interior defender, that defense matters a lot to me. It matters a lot, especially when these guys both close. These guys, they're going to give you 30. They're going to give you can book it 30, 12, and 5. You won't get it in a regular season playoff no matter what. But we all know the difference is with Joker, you got the playmaking, and Giannis, you got the defense and pressure. So I understand anyone choosing Joker, but that's the reason why I have Giannis as the best player. Based on all the qualifications I listed before, and when you narrow it down to those two, I still lean towards Giannis. And when you follow up to this regular season chill, with Dame being the first option scorer on that team, that's going to give Giannis more energy to do other things, chill. You and I both know when a player has elite help next to him, it's only going to make him better. That means I have less to do.
Offensively, I still think it has to get figured out with him as a primary ball handler. So I think this is something that it's a 2-year window, but my criteria is a little bit different when we're talking about the best player on the planet. Winning matters to me. I care about playing at a high level, like you just said, and winning matters. When you talk about being the best on the planet.
Remember last spring, or we was on Chill with Chill. Remember, you listed the best players year by year. Majority of those years here, Moses, Kareem, Jordan, James, Duncan, you listed years where they were still the best player, even though they didn't win. Now, based on your criteria, even though they didn't win, they still made their teams competitive.
Correct. With that being said, the same logic goes for Joker, because we're talking about a guy like, for example, James was the best. I felt like James was the best player in the game in 2014. I felt like James was the best player in the game in 2015, even though they didn't win the NBA championship. But when you are playing at an MVP level and your team is at the top of the conference and you winning league MVPs regularly, and you're taking your team deep into the playoffs, like I said, if Giannis is the back-to-back league MVP and his team wins 60 games and he's the defensive player of the year, and then the next year after that, his team wins the NBA championship off the strength of him and he's the finals MVP, that's the best player on the planet. I can't fight that. Even though there's other people that are in the conversation, that's the best player on the planet. For Joker to lose Jamal Murray in the middle of the season and still drag that team to a 3rd seed, and then the next year not have him, and then lose MPJ, and then still get that team to being a playoff team, win the league MVP, and then the next year to actually have those guys and still play at the level that he was playing. His scoring dipped, not much, but his scoring dipped, but all the other things stayed the same. In fact, his distribution went up. And with all of that being said, win the NBA championship in the dramatic fashion that they did, that's the best player on the planet. If I'm staying consistent with my logic, that's the best player on the planet.
Yeah, and that's fair. I'm not gonna lie, that's completely fair. And in my opinion, Chill, like that's how crazy close those two guys are. Because if you
it's not like this. It's not like this. It's these two dudes, like this and this. That's what it is. These two dudes.
Because Giannis did the same exact thing within a 4-year span than opposed to 3 years. Like that's how close these guys are.
The same thing Joker just did in these last 3 years. Giannis just did it the last 3 years. The same thing.
Yep.
That's why he was the best player on the planet. For that reason right there. The same thing. So if I'm staying consistent with my logic, Joker's the best player on the planet. It's that simple.
All right, chill. Before I step off, I'm actually a challenging question. Last one. Out of the players that's 25 or younger, who do you think has the greatest chance to be the next best player in the world?
I'm on record saying this, 30. I don't think we met him yet.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we met him yet. But I will tell you this, that freak of nature that's in San Antonio, that's what the league gonna look like in the next. That's what the league is gonna look like in the next 10 to 15 years. I'm on record saying that months ago. So in 15, 20 years, if I'm not around anymore, you'll remember that I said that in the next 15 to 20 years, the NBA is going to be a bunch of 6'10" to 7'3" superior athletes with a super duper skill set who could shoot the long ball. That's what the NBA is going to look like. Don't think that all of a sudden these 7-footers are going to come out of nowhere. No, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that the 7-footers that's in the game, they're going to have to change their skill set. Kind of like what James did when he recognized that the game was going toward the long ball. I got to put this in my game if I want to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
I got to put this in my game if I want to stick around.
That was a great one, dude. They adapt. Yep. Yo, y'all likes, share, subscribe, bro. It's free.
All right, brother. Good to talk to you. What up?
Yo, Chill, can you hear me?
What up?
Yeah, they talked about the whole Luka and Jason Tatum. I don't like it when we're gonna talk about, Jason Tatum and Luka. If we're gonna talk about Jason Tatum and Luka, I don't like the gap.
Did I lose him?
Sorry, no, I'm here.
You don't like the gap. That's what I heard. The last thing I heard was you don't like the gap.
I don't like if you're gonna talk about Jason Tatum and Luka, don't take away Jason Tatum's skill set, something about Jason Tatum's skill set just to prop up Luka. If you're gonna go and say that Luka's a much better playmaker and ball handler, then Jason Tatum's a much better defender. And that defense makes up for the offensive gap. I think Jason Tatum is better than Luka because he's more versatile, right? Because I can count on Jason Tatum offensively and defensively. He's a good rebounder. He's a good rim protector. He led all small forwards in rebounds. So personally, for me, I value the player who's more versatile. So if we're going to talk about like Jokic and Giannis, I'm going to take Giannis. You know what I mean?
Right. That's fair.
I got
what up, Random?
Oh, what's good? What
up?
Oh, sorry. I was too busy watching the start of that Colorado game, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I threw in the super chat this morning. Well, I obviously Deandre Ayton. I think you and I feel the same way. Like, I know you said it's a watershed moment for Giannis in terms of this season, but I mean, you could use the exact same thing for DeAndre Jordan. But real quick before we get there, so I checked out the rankings. I didn't know they came out. So Jamal Murray is 17. I don't know if anybody's mentioned that yet. How do you feel about that? And also, second question would be, you think is this the highest he's ever going to be? Because I think he's getting maybe a little bit of that championship. I don't want to say bias. Is bias the right word? Because at least for me, when I saw it, I was like, that seems a little high.
I'm not sure he's I understand him being in the top 20, considering how he played in the playoffs, how he played in the regular season. This was supposed to be a transition year. This was not supposed to be him being thwarted into the top 20. I had him more of a top 25 player. I think that's a little high. Now, don't get me wrong. Could he play himself into the top 20? The biggest issue that I have is when I hear people, this was before this season started, when I hear people telling me that Jaylen Brown's not a top 20 player. And I'm thinking, you can't name me 20 players better than James than Jaylen Brown. I'm sorry. You can't do it.
He's one of the better shooting guards in the league.
You can't give me legit logic that Jaylen Brown is not a top 20 player in the game.
I think when you look at Jaylen, it's maybe how he left the playoffs that really a lot of people are going to use. Obviously, like, he can't dribble with his left, even though you and Mars have both said it religiously since when he came into the league. He's obviously improved, so it's not like he just stayed the same player. Right. So I sat there, I saw what was it? Looking at from 17 to 25. Siakam at 25, Kawhi at 24. De'Aaron, I think, is underrated. I think if they put De'Aaron at 17 and Jamal Murray at 24, I wouldn't have had. I would not even have if I saw De'Aaron at 17. I'm like, all right.
I'm not sure De'Aaron Fox is a top 20 player, but it doesn't bother me if he was. When you ever have players that are, like for example, with James, I think they got James at 9. If you got James anywhere between 8 and 12, I'm cool with that. But you're not selling me he's a top 5 player in the game. No, not at all.
Not anymore, Chill?
No, I don't think so. No,
he's barely holding on to the top 10 if you want to be completely honest.
Absolutely not. So if you have,
so who are the better? So James is. What would you say? James is like a top 3 small forward in the game now. Top 3 small
forwards in the game. I think so, but just because you're top 3 at that position, that doesn't mean that you're top 10 in the league because there's other positions that are better.
You've seen it. We've got a trio of big men at least who occupy the top 5,
right? And point guards.
I'm about to say point guards are coming in who are very strong, and I mean, plus you have that, like you said, championship bias with Jamal Murray. Like where I legitimately think, like I can mention this many times till blue in the place, Jamal Murray is just too high. And that's I guess that's okay because hopefully this season's also I think it's a maybe like a what's the word, maybe reputation sealer for him because I think he has a chance. Obviously you attain the ultimate success your first year back from injury, but what he does this year I think is what the fact that he hasn't even been an all-star. It sounds crazy, but then when you look at his competition, like when was he ever going to get in? I guess he had a chance maybe when Steph was hurt, but he was hurt. The year the Steph was hurt, he was hurt. So maybe there was a few maybe missed opportunities there.
Right.
But when you look at a Jamal Murray, this season could be a really big one in terms of where he stands, at least for fans in the league. So maybe people in the league like him a lot more than we do. But to kind of not get off track, because I really want to talk about Deandre Ayton and how big this is for him.
Right.
You and I so far are the only ones who really think he should. I mean, I've said it. I think he should be dominant.
Yes. I think he's an all-league defender this year.
Yeah.
And my take was a hot take, but I think he's an all-league defender this year.
I don't see why not. He's like I think a lot of people.
What do you think is an all-league defender this year, Joe?
Deandre Ayton.
Deandre Ayton?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like he's the best player on their team. He's the best player on Portland right now. You can say Scoop, but he's not. He's the best player on their squad. Mm-hmm. And I think Chauncey Billups, I understand that you want to develop Scoot and the rest of your young guards and kind of figure out what you want to do with them. Even though I think when the deadline comes, unless they're somehow wildly successful, they're selling. They're going to sell some more. DeAndre Ayton should be all-league defender, which I agree with you. He should get some all-star consideration, but like I said, in the West, it's tough. He's not beating out Jokic. He's not beating out AD. He's probably not even beating out JJJ. Who else? Sabonis. Like he's not beating those people out. Like he gets in because somebody got hurt.
He's going to be an all-league performer.
I think he could be.
He could be,
like
but
a third-team All-NBA.
I think he could play at that level.
The problem is that they're not going to give him that love.
That 17, that 18 a game. The fact that he's always been a double-digit rebounder. He's always been that. So with that being said, now him moving up to Portland, where they're going to focus more on him in the offense. One thing that he did in Phoenix, and I think that he's going to do more in Portland, he rebounded more, he defended more, he rim protect more when they involved him in the offense. Well, that's going to happen in Portland, where he's going to be the focal point of their offense. So if he's going to be the focal point of their offense, I think that he could be a 20 and 10 guy.
Do you think he's going to be like do you think he's the man on that squad, on that Portland Trailblazer squad? Now
I think initially he has to be. If you want to at least see kind of what your team could be, you have a lot of assets right now that a lot of people want. And I may be one of the people once that Dame trade happened, I was like, Portland got a great haul back. If Chauncey can work his magic, there could be something there with just the piece that they have. But I hardly think
Robert Williams, Robert Williams, and DeAndre Ayton, and 4 1s for Damian Lillard. I'll take that.
So I sat there, and then I think they're gonna sell Rob. They're gonna sell Rob. There's gonna be a team in the playoff race is going to be like, look, we'll give you another one for Rob. They're going to sell Rob, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to sell Brogdon too?
If they're like middle of the pack at best, they're selling. So it's going to be, let's see how Scoot and Ayton can fit together. Him at 49 seems crazy to me. Chill. Him at 49.
DeAndre Ayton at 49.
At 49, I
think that's going to change.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of hate because of the perception around him when he's really still a double guy, the fourth option on the team. I cannot defend him standing there watching the rest of his team rebound in the playoffs while he's just standing there. I can't defend that. But hopefully he understands how important this is for him this season.
I mean,
for sure.
yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Hey, Nick Johnson, whatever your name is, Nick Johnson, go do your homework, man. DeAndre Ayton is a double-digit rebounder for his career. What do you mean he doesn't rebound? What are you talking about? Come
he's
on,
gonna
man.
rebound, and he's gonna rebound even better.
You dudes want me to take you dudes serious, yo, and I don't. Come on, man. I'm good, yo. I'm straight on this.
He was a double guy. He's a double guy with limited shots. I'm not saying that my guy is going to rival AD in terms of talent and production.
No, he's not going to do that.
I'm not doing that. But you can't sit there and say with KD, Devin Booker, who take their fair share of shots.
Right.
Plus, now you add a Bradley Beal.
He was the fourth guy.
Fourth guy on that team. He was first of all, finally get him out of there because he was only going to be a cancer in the locker room because of obviously the dynamic of the Suns. But send him to Phoenix send him to Portland where hopefully Scoot maybe at some point understands, man, I got this guy. He's been in the league. He's hungry right now. Yeah. There is something here with us. Mm-hmm. And obviously then at some point the natural transition would be, okay, I've tried to carry the team as far as I could. Let me hand it off to the young cat who can jump out the gym and then he can take his rest away. But I'm still going to be a factor. If the right decisions are made by that GM, and so far he's made the right decisions.
I also think that Scoot is in a space where he's a rook who's trying to figure it out. So I don't think that he's coming in like, all right, I got to get the big fella the ball. Well, I still got to do my job too. But I think that's why I think that moving off Dame was such a bad thing because I think that really could have helped him. I mean, there's nothing that I can match to get my ass busted every day in practice by Dame Lillard. I would definitely do better.
Yeah, does he have that point guard? Does he have a point guard in there that he can sit behind to kind of absorb knowledge?
Isn't Brogdon on that team?
They don't have it, so
Brogdon's on that team.
That's the vet.
That's the vet, but I was one of those people like I wish Portland didn't get. I understand why they got rid of Drew. You're not gonna turn down the assets, but if they kept Drew and maybe he's killing Scoot Henderson in practice because of just how great he is on defense. He's like, nah, young buck, you got to figure this out.
Right.
I think I'm old. I'm getting old. There are younger people in the league hungry. You think Alex Caruso gonna take it easy on you like I am in practice right now? Alex Caruso's a dog. I understand how you feel about him in limited minutes. Chill, but he's still a dog. Like there's people out there who's gonna be like, "Oh, you're the number 2 in the pick in the draft." I'm about to smell the cologne or the deodorant you put on today. Like I'm about to kill you today. Like what we doing?
Yo, chill. Yo, chill. I got a question for you. It's a football question. I know you're a big time 49er guy, so you got to see Jerry Rice for his entire career. What made him the GOAT wide receiver? Was it his route running, his athleticism, the fact that he was fast? Just his decision making. What about Jerry Rice made him the GOAT wide receiver?
Consistency.
Oh, I was just about to say that, Chill.
There was no drop off. This is what I do, and this is what he did every game. There was no difference. I never saw any difference in terms of his route running. I never saw any difference in his burst after he catches the ball. When I saw his improvement, I saw consistency from Jerry Rice. And that's what you're looking for when you're talking about being the best to ever do it. Every year you expect this from this guy, and they give it. And that's who Jerry Rice was. He was the model of consistency. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't Randy Moss as an athlete. You know, he wasn't Terrell Owens in terms of physique and how strong he was. But I can tell you one thing he was going to do. He was going to outwork you. He was going to outwork you. And it wasn't going to be close.
Yeah, I was going to add on to that.
Guy that he was that guy that every year if he gave you 1,000 yards, he'd give you that on a consistent basis.
And it wasn't empty neither.
He was a guy. He was a guy who did also the dirty work too. I understand that in the 80s and 90s, the game was still rough and tough. Like if you were a receiver, I don't know why you coming down the middle because you're about to take your head. They're about to take your head off. But he's one of those guys. He'd get in there and block too. Yes. He's one of those guys who a lot of guys that I enjoy those kind of players, Chill, who maximize what they have. because they don't have the speed of a Randy Moss or even the height of a Randy Moss, but he was outworking you. He maximized. He made the sacrifices in terms of what he's eating and all that. A lot of people, you hear that and it sounds nice, but even in the 80s, a guy who's like, look, I'm doing this. I'm the best player in football. And it was like at some point when he's doing it over and over again and you see success, you think other people would try to emulate that in terms of that consistency and that hard work, but it's hard, man. Yeah, it's hard to stay that committed when you're 40 and you're one of the best receivers on the Raiders going to the Super Bowl. It's hard to do that when you're
still doing it.
Yeah, when you're 25, when you're 25, it's hard. Dear God, when you're 35, how many receivers make it to 35?
Is he the GOAT? Is he the GOAT player for the 49ers?
Yes.
Yes.
He is.
Yeah.
So he stands as the best player ever to put on a 49er jersey.
49.
I think a lot of people get confused with because they want to say quarterback. They always want to say quarterback, but when you say player, it's not even close. That's why you've seen this split off recently in football discourse where they want to say the GOAT and they want to say Tom Brady, but it's not. It's just not. That's why quarterback. You just say quarterback and then you go best player.
So do you think he's in the conversation, Chill?
For GOAT? Jerry Rice?
Yeah, yes, I think so.
Absolutely, I think
who else is in there? LT is in there.
Lawrence Taylor, Deion Sanders. Absolutely, Jim Brown, guys like that.
If Mahomes stays as mobile as he is, would you put him in that category, or you got to be something special as a runner, as an athlete at quarterback?
Well, I think that Patrick Mahomes is becoming the GOAT in terms of a talent.
He's the best talent the NFL's ever seen.
I'm trying to fight for Joe Montana, but I just never seen nothing like this kid before, man. I just haven't, and I can't. Aaron Rodgers, Joe Montana. I'm like, yo, I ain't never seen nothing like this kid, and I don't think I am again in my lifetime. I doubt that I will. So, okay. but to the point, and I got to get going. But yeah, I think that Jerry Rice, in terms of a football player, I can't name 5 football players better than him in the history of the NFL. I can't. That's where I'm at with it. So
like you can name, I would say LT because LT was different. Jim Brown was different in a way different era. And then you can't name another player. I always put Jerry Rice third, and that's just because I happened to see some Jim Brown highlights that day. So that's why Jim Brown is second. If I saw some Jerry Rice highlights first, he's second. LT's my GOAT.
He's the best defensive player in the history of the NFL for me. I can't speak for as good as Deion Sanders was, as good as Reggie White was. Lawrence Taylor is the best defensive player in the history that I've ever.
Top 5 is a bloodbath, Chill.
Yeah, I'm good.
Deion Sanders is in there, and that's a stud in his own right. It's like he's 4.
I'm good.
Somebody that landed a punch in the air right now that I said that. So,
all right, brother. Good to talk to you. You know where to find me at. Yep. All right, guys. It's about time for me. It was good to see you guys tonight. Great conversation. I really dug it. I'll do it again soon. I do have to read a couple of super chats before I go. One of the super chats was from my man Moody. He said, keep doing your thing, OG. I will, my man. I definitely will. And my man D said, my man D Bell said, y'all geeking. Tatum is better now. And I have to agree with him because I think he is. So that's just me. But it was good to see you guys tonight. I will see you guys soon. But until then, take it light or take it. Dope stream tonight.